No, that's the David Cross something. Okay, fine. I was thinking of some other David Cross.
Well, I'm sorry to disappoint. There is. You're thinking of the violinist for King Crimson. I get that a lot.
Oh
Yeah. That happens. It happens. I can, and I'm happy to do this. I can talk to you as David Cross from the violinist from King Crimson. It's not a problem. Maynard, how are you?
good.
We haven't.
Tired.
I'm sure we haven't talked in person, or what passes for in person these days, but in quite a while. Although we have exchanged emails, checking in on each other, seeing how we're doing. Correct me if I'm wrong, but you're in the middle of touring, right? Is it tour right now?
Yeah.
And when you go out, are you out now? Or are you coming back home for a good chunk of time in between shows?
No, good chunk of time. This time was 6 days.
Mhm.
So it's just enough to put your bags down, realize you forgot something in your bag, open it up, and then put shit back in it and get back in a plane to go to the next leg. We just did 5 weeks. There's another 4.5, 5 weeks coming, 3-week break, and then to Europe for 5 weeks, and then about a 2-week break, rehearsals for Puscifer, and then out with Puscifer until I think July 10, and then I have to get back, and we're prepping a new facility here in Cottonwood, and I have harvest basically through the middle of October.
You're making a bottle of wine as well, right? You're this whole thing, one bottle of wine that you're doing.
Yes, a very large bottle of wine, a roughly 30,000 gallon bottle of wine.
And did you have to commission that bottle separately, or is that something you can go get at the large wine bottle supply store?
That's precisely the word, incorporated. Yes.
This isn't for me. This is for the folks out there who are dying to know. So that seems pretty fucking crazy and intense. You're bringing it upon yourself. So I have zero sympathy. This is all you. You chose it. And
yes.
But it's been, I mean, how long was it in between, due to the pandemic and whatever personal reasons that you or any of the guys in the band might have had? How long had it been since you were touring?
Well, for Puscifer, the last shows I think we did were in 2016. Wow. And then I had to take some time to get some recording together with a APC, Perfect Circle. So we went on the road a little bit, and then we released a record, and I want to say that was, good God, 18.
Mm-hmm.
And then Tool in 19, we started doing some touring, and we're getting ready to do the Puscifer record, Existential Reckoning, for 20. And the last Tool show was in, I want to say, the end of February, beginning of March of 20. We were fucked until basically just this past January.
Right.
So I had all those tours lined up. I was going to spread them out, like do some, do the thing with Tool, go back, take a break, go out with Puscifer. But now we're having to jam a lot of that, and not all of it, because you just don't have time to get everywhere. And in this year,
man, that sounds like a great. I mean, in one sense, it's enviable because you're working, if anything, was a result of the pandemic, there was that sense of, at least for me, speaking for myself, I always assumed, kind of cavalierly and naively, that, hey, if everything else goes to shit, I'll always be able to do stand up. If I get blackballed by the industry, if I can't, whatever, I'll always be able to do that. Which is the thing I love doing more than anything. But I couldn't for a year and a half, and obviously affected my income, but also affected my mental health. And it was hard. How did you mentally deal with not being, you've got your winery, of course, but how did you, and your family, but without being able to perform, what was that like for 2 years?
Well, I think, this is a much bigger conversation than we can have in Revolver magazine over Zoom. But I think, there's coming from a family of educators, I
Mhm.
don't know what it was along the way. Maybe it's, growing up in, buried in snow, and you have to dig your way out of the snow to get to wherever you're going. Or if it's, my dad was my wrestling coach, and so there's that, drill sergeant slash mentor drive that you get. But somebody somewhere along the line armed me with that, reason, skills of being able to reason through things and navigate hurdles,
Mhm.
metaphorically and literally. So I think as soon as the pandemic hit, it was like immediately pay-per-view. So Puscifer, we did two pay-per-views. We finished up a record and released that. I got to work more on the restaurants and the recipe concepts for the tasting rooms.
Mhm.
Uh, like when they say you can't have people in the place, I go, can we do to go? So immediately we adjusted some of our things that it could be much more convenient for somebody to come be fed, right?
Right.
We already have greenhouses, we have food growing. We're not going to stop growing the food. We're not going to stop cultivating the grapes. So we figured out ways to supply our employees with little go bags for the week. So they would show up and there's, the pastas and, the fruit, vegetables, a little bit of cheese and meats, a roll of toilet paper, because I thought that was funny. Apparently they actually needed it. Um, bar soap, just little dumb things. You just, when everything locked down and the stores cleared out, we just
I
figured out a way around it.
I never understood the hoarding toilet paper thing. That didn't make any sense to me. How much are you really shitting outside of your house? I think for most people, maybe a morning dump and then maybe one later on in the evening. So nothing's changing. So I don't know why people were
Well,
hoarding.
that's one of the things during pandemic that was great because I figured out a way to because I'm locked down, nothing to do. I figured out a way to take 4 shits a day.
Oh, did you?
Just kind
That's
of
good
pinch it
for you.
off a little bit. It's uncomfortable for a minute, but
Smart.
then you figure out a rhythm.
And you're training
So
your body.
training your body to poop 4 times.
Right. You're just justifying your hoarding toilet paper. Got it. I understand. And what about a bidet?
We already kind of had one of those because I thought it was funny when I put it like it's a toilet seat you can attach to your normal toilet, and it
Mhm.
has a remote. And it was great to stand around the corner and scare the shit out of my wife while she's sitting on the toilet.
Why do you need a remote for a bidet? It
I,
really begs the question, who's
yeah.
do you need a remote?
All
Um,
it does is it just ends up eating batteries because it's like it's sitting there going, "Are we shitting? Are we washing? Are we shitting? Are we washing?"
you were able to go back in the studio, you were able to write. When you're doing that, are you doing that in Arizona?
A lot of the writing is right here. This is the studio in
Yeah.
Arizona for my tracking. I have a beautiful blue bottle mic here that I use, and Matt will either drive out or fly out. We have some of the gear here, but he'll bring stuff with him. So we
Yeah.
have a studio in LA, and so he would take the back way over to the studio, hide in the studio, and everything I've done since I want to say almost all the way back to 2006. Most vocals have been done here in Arizona.
When you're doing that, and excuse my ignorance, but is it just you sending it in, getting notes that are anybody else involved with the music or production there with you?
Yeah, Matt will come out and he'll engineer the and everything, and spend a few days here, listen back to stuff. It's always about honing it in, fixing it,
Hmm.
getting it right. Because of course, with recording music, you want to get it as correct as you can without manipulating it. But
Well,
I do. I like doing that.
I remember being a little surprised and impressed when you did stuff for Run Ronnie Run. We asked you to come in, and it was like something like it was about whatever, something fat kid or something, whatever that thing was. But I mean,
Ass kicking fat kid.
ass kicking fat kid, yeah. And you had, I mean, you had a process that for on my my end of things, I'm so used to coming in and riffing stuff and doing whatever. And I mean, you had a whole thing. You had to get to this place. You had to get your voice to this place. You had to, you took your time. You did multiple takes, and because for you, we were like, "This is great, thanks." And you're like, "No, no, 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 no." And then you were just doing it and doing it so that it was good for you. And I was really impressed by that. It was like a half day for what amounts to a pretty, you know, uh, not significant in the scope of the movie.
That you can see though that extra little effort that I made. I mean, we got an Oscar and a Grammy for
That's
that.
right.
It's totally all that extra effort paid off
Yeah.
so in dividends.
Can you imagine if you had phoned it in? What the result would have been? It would be like
it probably would have actually got the Oscar.
Yeah, if they wouldn't have. They would have actually released the movie. Yeah. Yeah. All right. So you're winding up, in a sense, the Tool shows. Then you rehearse, and then you go out with Puscifer. What is the difference in Tool and Puscifer?
As far as touring?
Yeah.
Well, the Tool show is you've got 4 top-notch operators on point for the most part. We're all getting older and things are creaking a little bit more, but you have this insane production, and those guys are so loud already. Just their individual stage volumes are big, and so for me, it's actually it's a nice break because the subtleties that we work through with Puscifer, it ends up being far more craft work, control over levels, just easier space to navigate in for the cabaret nature of some of the things we do.
Well, I didn't word that very well. Because Tool is an epic show with all these multimedia elements, and in a relative sense, Puscifer is more
Theater,
in and
theater.
also most and more intimate, in a sense. So what are the differences in your approach to and then I'm talking specifically going out on the road, the live performance, Tool and Puscifer?
A lot of it is just staying present in what is the thing, but that gets you in the right headspace. There's characters attached to. It's not just the music. And Matt lays down a beautiful bed of sounds for me to play with vocally, and then work with Karina on melodies and things. But the thing that kind of separates Puscifer from other things is also the characters, the other dimensions that are attached to it. So just in that way, you're switching characters. I've kind of set it up to where like you put on this different wig and this different outfit, and now you're kind of taking on that character for that scene. So you have to adjust yourself to the scene. You have to adjust yourself to the script. You adjust yourself to the music, because I can't be prowling around like a fucking maniac in Puscifer because it doesn't fit. It's just not the same. It's not the same vibe.
I've seen you do that. I've seen you kind of do that in Tool too, where you have. I mean, it's still Maynard, but it's Maynard as cowboy, or Maynard as Jesus. I feel like there's a conflict in your obligation to perform, to do this thing, and also a little bit of contempt for the trappings of it all.
You've been around the block, so you've seen what celebrity can do to people, but I think it goes before that. It's why do you need to be up there? Why do you need to be doing the thing you're doing? And for me, I was an only child playing dress up pretend, singing to fucking AC/DC records and Kiss records in my bedroom. And whatever, wah wah, woe is me, damage that you experience in your adolescence and your childhood, part of that's just why you're going to end up getting up on a stage and doing a thing. So for me, it's always been a very selfish thing. I need to do this, but I don't need you to be in the room while I'm doing it. So I'm just going to do it, right? I'm going to do it up there. I can't see him. Right. I don't care. I just need to do this. I don't need to do it for you. I need to do it for me.
That actually explains it really well.
Yeah.
That
So then,
I
but
get
then
that.
you have other people that need to be up front, running around, and they're up in front, bouncing around. The fucking sound is awful because their mic's feeding back and everybody else's monitors. Like, it just doesn't, that's because they need to be up there. They need you to look at them.
I've seen a bunch of shows where you're not at the front. I mean, you're fucking in the back, or you're
Yeah.
on a monitor even,
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that explains it well. Yeah.
But,
Um,
there, and that hair trigger contempt you talk about is like, yeah, you realize somewhere in the middle of all this, there's people here, and you have to entertain them. And so over time, I've been able to adjust that to bring the theatrics, to bring the entertainer, uh, to project from that area wherever I am, prancing around like an idiot. Um, you figure out a way to balance those things, but I think, especially with Puscifer, having all the other things going on takes the pressure off me
sure.
having to be the only clown on stage.
Hmm.
We have, like the last tour we went on, we had an entire lucha ring. It's like a
Hmm.
14-foot ring we had 5 luchadors jumping off the top rope while we're doing songs. And then running around, in between songs doing things, and during songs doing things. This tour is going to be, we'll have a few things up our sleeve as far as that's concerned. So
Can
they'll
you say anything? Hey, do
what's
you
that?
want to?
Yeah, I mean, it'll be very, it'll be a re-engineered, rethought out version of the Arcasante live show we did with the crazy towers and screens, um, and very Men in Black,
Mhm.
goofy lighting, and on top of that, other things that weren't in the Arcasante to kind of help push that AD. So it'll be very. I mean, I said this before, but my initial experience in LA, being exposed to variety show stand up comedy was Tantrum with
Mhm.
Laura Milligan, and you and Bob are working out. You guys are definitely beta testing your Mr. Show material on that stage.
Those were literally the first perform things we did together and on stage.
Yeah. Yeah. So that beta testing of and the multiple layers that Laura kind of set up, were like, before you even walk in that back shitty room, you've got somebody at the door setting the stage for what's going to happen tonight, not on the stage.
Hmm.
There's always shit going on in the audience. You and I playing Dr. O'Cudahy's, walking around taking orders with fucking the mirror on her head and the smocks.
Yeah.
So
My goodness,
like that
Jesus.
kind of stuff. That's what that planted the seed for me for the Puscifer shows, of trying to figure out how do I just take it, break the fourth wall in a way, and kind of have things going on bigger than just the stage, and bigger than just my girlfriend left me. That shit's so boring to me. And like, just
Well,
fucking do it.
I've always considered all your music to be distilled to my girlfriend left me. That's
Well, I
always
mean,
the
that's
thing
through
I've
your
yelled.
lens. That's your lens. I can't take your lens from you.
The way I came to know of Tool was I had just moved to LA. I'd probably been there for, I don't know, 3, 4 months or something. And I saw in the LA Weekly that there's this band Tool is going to play the Scientology Celebrity Center. And I was, and I was a big, that was kind of at the beginning stages, but I had been for a while, like just really obsessed with Scientology. And it was just such a weird, bizarre thing to me. For obvious reasons. But then getting to LA, which I wasn't familiar with LA and didn't particularly care for it, but I was, not far from the Celebrity Center, and I was like, oh man, I'm gonna go. This is a great way to just sort of infiltrate and see what's a fucking Scientology band like. This is gonna be
Yeah.
great. Uh,
Yeah.
and
Bait
then
and switch.
and then I got scared. I got nervous. Like, this is going to be not comfortable. It could be really. And I actually, side note, I went to, they have their restaurant and it's open to the public. And I went there with a couple of friends and we talked about, dozens of times. Like, we got to go. Come on. And then one day we went and I don't think we finished we had, whatever brunch things they came out with, and we didn't even finish. We were like, this is the creepiest, weirdest, oddest, disquieting thing I've ever experienced. And we got the fuck out of there. But tell me, or tell the readers of Revolver about how Tool came to almost play the Scientology Celebrity Center.
We did play
did play.
twice. We did 2 nights. And we had, the best part of it was that the Lounge Lizards opened for us.
Really?
And
Wow.
they, you know, we were like, okay, we probably, you know, we're just going to do our set. We're not going to adjust what we're doing to accommodate where we are or who we're in front of or whatever. But the Lounge Lizards, wide open. So we put them on stage in front of us, and they pissed the Scientology people off so much that the second night they just came up and put the hand over the mic and go, "You're done." And because they were going after. Well, because there was a guy who thought, you know, if we get some young blood in here, we can kind of help recruit people into Scientology. Maybe we can get the guys from Tool to get into Scientology.
Yeah, that's the thing, because then
they took me on. They took me on the tour, which is like, come on, dude. Like, anybody with a fucking decent high school education is going to walk through here and go, "Oh my God, this is great. You guys are so full of shit."
Yeah.
But you know, that's my take on it. I have friends that are still Scientologists, and we just agree to disagree. But it was just weird that, like, they shut them down. They came backstage to me. I was warming up, and the guy's like, you know, clearly armed, like literally has his jacket. He has his gun, and he makes sure that his jacket's unbuttoned and I can see it. And he goes, we had to pull the opening act off. Are we gonna have a problem with you in this? And I go, you just walked up to me with a gun, and I'm gonna do what I'm gonna do. And this is a glass building. Do you really
gonna shoot you?
Do you really want to see where this is gonna go? Yeah. Because fuck off.
Well, tell me about that show. Tell me about those shows.
They were great. It was the worst sounding room you're ever going to be in, because it's all reflective surfaces. That was fucking dreadful.
So you guys were inside, or
inside that fucking glass dome? Yeah, it was awful.
They have their restaurant or whatever.
Yeah, it was awful.
Yeah. Did you, by any chance, go to the gift shop on your tour when you were in the little area where they have the videos playing, and then you can get the e-meters, like the Mark?
No, I couldn't even remember where I was hearing, you know, because they took us in the dungeon to hear the screamings.
Mm-hmm.
No, it was just weird. You go through that building, you're like, this is some fucking weird shit. This is not good. And I'd already heard stories from people just going, yeah, like, if you're in, you're in, and then if you try to get out, you're fucking. They still had that kind of power, and you know,
this was like, what was that? 93.
93. They would fucking cancel your life.
Yeah, fucked up. I did a couple. Well, we'll save that for another conversation. But yeah, I went through their personality tests and tours, and especially after.
Are you happy, David? Are you happy?
That's the
really,
other thing.
Are you really happy though?
It's their personality test, and I've done it, as I said, 3 times. Once in Boston and 2 in LA. Third time I did it, I did have some sort of celebrity, so they treated me a little differently. But it's hasn't changed, or at least didn't change in that time period. It was called the Oxford Standardized Personality Test, which is just made up. They put the word Oxford there, and then every question is like, you get upset and yell at your parents, and then it's just 3, you know, it's a multiple choice, like always, never, sometimes. And they just have it done so that however you answer, they can apply some kind of logic to it. Like, well, this is not good. You shouldn't always yell at your parents, or you shouldn't, even sometimes you shouldn't, you know, you need to be able to rein in your emotions. Or if you never yell at your parents, you're hiding your emotions, because we all want to yell sometimes, you know, whatever the thing is. And it's just like blatantly bullshit. Just clearly, when they give it to you, when they set it down, when you're looking at it, when they come back and go, hey, you scored a 118 negative on the mental health whatever thing. So you're suicidal, and you're like, no, I don't.
I answered the most extreme one, like clearly incorrectly. All of them, I just went. Do you have, like I kept asking guy like this one asked if I, yell at your parent. Is there one where I want to kill them?
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay. I just go with always. I just always yell at them. I always it just never, whatever the most negative answer
yeah.
was. And I think I didn't, and I still didn't break the record. Somebody was worse off than I was, I'm sure.
They can. It's designed so they can manipulate it. Were you dying to play shows again? And are there things about playing shows that now you're like, oh right, I didn't miss that part of it?
Yeah. I mean, it's like everything. There's, just traveling in general, being away from your family. Cause now, COVID definitely, helped me reconnect with my
Hmm.
family, with my community, with my home, with our
Yeah,
livestock, with the gardens. So I do miss when you're out there doing this other thing. I miss that really well. But you know, Matt and Matt and our lighting designer Sarah Landau, this all the effort they put into this cool show we did for the pay-per-view and everything. I really, really missed being able to present that to people in
mhm.
those small theater settings. There's just an energy that comes with this thing. So yeah, I really, really, really miss that. But
Yeah,
the things that I don't like about the road don't even come close to eclipsing the good parts.
yeah.
So
Okay. Yeah, and especially if you're able to, and you are schedule it so you have time back to. You're not just out on the road. You're not in a van and crashing it. Four people to a room, Motel 6 type stuff. You're able to get home. You're able to see your kids and family. Yeah, and your livestock. I know that's important to you. Do you have a favorite livestock?
well, here's the thing. I leave the house, I go on tour, I come home. My wife now has a desert tortoise that she inherited from somebody. Two feral black cats that are supposed to be mousers outside, and she just got her falconer's license, so she built this whole falcon hut
Wow.
thing. So she now is inheriting a falcon legally. She has her license and everything, and we're getting the inspection on the actual falcon house. That there's a fucking falcon house at the house now.
I remember seeing Falcon House, the reality series, and being really surprised. There was a kind of a twist at the end. Season 3 of Falcon House.
Okay,
Yeah.
falcon house on it all over. Because I have time in the hotels on tour. I can binge that on Netflix.
Yeah. Also, none of those things you mentioned are livestock. But we'll move on. Maynard, it's been over 25 years since a band called Puscifer appeared on episode 1,
Whoa.
season 1, episode 1 of Mr. Show. What do you remember about filming that sketch?
I remember being all in to the character that was accompanying Ronnie Dobbs in an alley and realizing that we sat down in urine and broken glass, having shot our scene in an actual alley.
Weren't we shooting like right near your studio? It
Yeah,
was
right
like
near
right
the
down
studio.
right?
Yeah,
And we were stealing shots. We had no money, so we were stealing all those shots.
yeah,
And yeah, that's the treat about, because you guys were right off Hollywood Boulevard, like just the
yeah,
shit,
yeah.
the
Like
gross.
like all the cobble is grouted with bum dung.
What's the current incarnation of Pussifer all about, and how, if at all, does it relate to the original?
As I mentioned, the original incarnation of Puscifer was just basically me trying to figure out ways to explore more of that sketch comedy
Mhm.
approach. And it actually predates the Mr. Show episode. It was actually some of the characters that I played on the stage at Tantrum. And
Mhm.
because Laura had her boyfriend Vince was supposed to show up and close the show, and that was kind of the running joke. He's a musician who never really
Right,
showed up.
right,
So
right, right, right.
I became Vince, but every time Vince came up, it was some different thing because he couldn't get his head straight on what he wanted to do. So
I
one was
remember
kind of
that.
like a dead or alive, wind me up, baby, wind me up, instead of just we dressed like Dead or Alive. And then the next one was the Umlaut, the only improvisational hardcore band in Los Angeles. But these were all kind of under the moniker of Puscifer. So everything we did was kind of a Puscifer take.
I want to make sure everybody knows that was not Puscifer was not something that Bob and I wrote. That was your
that
thing.
was an already existing thing.
Yeah.
At Tantrum. So that was kind of like, that was the first incarnation of it. And because it was just the whole nature of it at Tantrum was all over the map with what Vince nobody wanted to do. And I think then the moment that it kind of solidified to go, oh, we're gonna do this more at some point, we're gonna figure out a way to do this, was when Laura and I did the cover of Tom Morello and Chris's Country Boner. Mm-hmm. We did that song Country Boner at a Keith Morris benefit at the Whiskey. And so I was like, okay, this is great. Wigs, stupid country music, we did all these Circle Jerk songs, covers as country songs. And so all the stuff that Vince did, or, this character did, Billy D ended up being the character that came out of it, that ended up being the cornerstone of us pursuing Puscifer further.
That's about as great, fascinating, and in-depth origin story as I've heard. I'm not joking. That's a really cool.
Better than the X-Men, the Wolverine one. If I get really close, that's really big. But that's not very big. No, okay, yeah. So not.
No, but it's more.
It's more.
Comedy is obviously a big part of Puscifer, and also Tool with Bill Hicks. Who are your favorite comics besides me, of course, and how have they influenced your work?
There are other comics other than David Cross. I mean, it's pretty interesting watching the progression of comedy since Bill Hicks. Like some of the stuff that Bill did, he couldn't do today. Like there's a bunch of things that no, you're done. You're canceled. So it's amazing to see how everyone treads that fine line of pushing up against what you're not supposed to say, but being acceptable, right up, rubbing right up against the edge.
I would argue that people aren't. A lot of people aren't necessarily being careful. They're about crossing any kind of ideological line, but they're still doing it. But the reaction is different. I don't know that it's like somebody like when I think of like Chappelle or Bill Burr or some people who are more, or Anthony Jeselnik, or people who are like, that's part of what they do. I don't get the sense that they're censoring. They're just having to deal with a bunch of shit now. Do you feel like audiences process music, comedy, art at large differently now? Has it become harder to be provocative, or are people actually too easily provoked now?
I think it's that. I think they're just too easily provoked. It's almost like the invention of the smartphone has, it escalated quickly to your brain is now polarized this or that. Mm-hmm. You have to pick a side when you know full well that the gray area is easily 90%, 80% of the world. It's those final 5% far right and left that are so fucking loud, and the middle ends up being that thing that ends up being canceling the gray and ends up just being black and white, because you have to pick a side, and we lead conversations with a baited statement to start an argument. Every Twitter is like, I really, really, really enjoy planting and growing flowers, and if you don't, fuck you. Like it's immediately like you've immediately set up the fucking fight. And I think we forgot how to fucking talk to each other, face to face maybe. And there's
100% agree. 100% agree that it's that, and the knee-jerk reaction to it that's based on emotion, and context gets dissolved, and it just becomes this this thing that happened, this thing you did, this thing you said, without any context to it, and no discussion, no debate, no, and people aren't interested in that anymore, unfortunately.
Yeah, there's a lack of. I feel like, again, going back to my my father and my stepmother, like that, growing up in the education system. I feel like I've watched through their eyes and my own, that disintegration of what used to be a huge part of schools, like that debate team.
Yeah,
you can't you can't come to the table not having done your research for your side of the argument,
yeah.
right? And it wasn't never really meant to for you to pick a side. It was just meant to see who presented a better argument, for the medal. But like, you could see everyone laid out logical, realistic, factual presentation for you to make a choice.
Or even have your mind changed about something. Like if
Right.
you come into
Be open
something
to
with
it.
this hard viewpoint, and then you have this discussion, this debate,
Right.
exchange of ideas, and then you change your mind based on that.
Change your mind. If you get new information, it should be fairly easy to take a step back, assume you might be wrong, do the research. And that's what think for yourself, question authority means. You might come back around to go, oh yeah, they were right about that. But step back, yeah, question it, because that's what you should do as a human being. Don't take everything at face value. Change your mind when
Yeah,
new actual information comes in. I think there's just such a flood of information and disinformation and just flippant reactionary information out there that you just shut down and just pick a side, and then you just pick your team, do or die.
I got to jump off because I got another thing.
That
And,
is such bullshit.
like I'm promoting this new special, um, which, by the way, is called "I'm from the Future," and you can get it exclusively at officialdavidcross.com.
Wow.
Anyway,
Wow.
but I
Wow.
will, you know, I mean, I'm doing this for a reason too, Maynard. All right, man. Well, thank you for doing this. Thanks to the folks at Revolver, and always good to talk to you. And hopefully, I'll see you at some point. If you're in New York for a couple days, let me know.
I will find you.
All right, man. Good to talk to you as always.
Peace.
Thank you. Love to the kids.
I'm out.